Welcome to Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Playbook for Performance podcast. We're talking about the essential skills for the effective leader, and one of them is to adapt your style as a leader to make sure that you are addressing each and every person that you interact with in a way that they can hear the message that you're trying to deliver, and that you're delivering it in a way that matches their personality. Essentially, what their preferences and tendencies are when it comes to receiving information, getting feedback, all of that stuff. And it's really important that we do that. Otherwise, the message isn't heard. So, how do we do that? Well, one of the things that we really need to figure out is how do they prefer to receive information? Everything from the pace, the tone, the amount of information, and how do they like to work? And this includes going into voicemail, email, etc. Now, of course, your team members are going to do some adapting to you as well, but we want to meet in the middle as much as possible. So ask yourself a couple of questions when you think about your team members today. Do they like things more fast-paced or more carefully measured? Do they need to know the background and why we're doing it and all of the context, or just the facts? Do they want their environment to be fun and lively, or do they want something more quiet and reserved? All of these things tell us about their style and how you can best match what they need. So when I talk to leaders, often they say, I'm 10 different leaders in a single day. And I say, yeah, that's true. That's the emotionally intelligent, responsive leader. And especially when we look at things like psychological safety, we're looking at the ability for the team members to be able to really look at all of the information that's being given to them, and for them to submit their ideas, whether it be an innovation, whether it be a challenge, whether it be a request, and not be either verbally attacked or retaliated against for having those thoughts and concerns. It's so important that we harness the power of our entire teams. When we don't do that, if we just have a yes-man team, then it requires a huge act of bravery, essentially a whistleblower, to challenge the situation. And that's how we get these ethical violations, or we see poor performance in the marketplace and people hide information. Things come to leaders as a big surprise. We don't want that to be the case. We want people to be able to volunteer their thoughts, and the more diverse the team is, the better. And I'm not talking about necessarily a color palette or other preferences. I'm talking about diversity of thought. So having, HR, human-centered people on the same team as engineers who are always looking at accuracy and data and things like that. We need both sides for any equation to really be fulfilled in the most profitable way for the organization. So every intelligent leader really needs to understand each of what every team member needs to be effective. So once you know their style, it's really easy to just slow down or speed up, skip the details, or you might need to do the necessary ask about their weekend or provide the background. So step one is really learn your own style. Am I more outgoing, fast-paced, or am I more quiet, reserved? Okay, so that tells us one part of the formula. The other is, am I more warm and accepting, So I want to relate to people on a personal basis, or am I more questioning and skeptical? I'm there for numbers and data and things like that. And none of these are good or bad. They just are what they are, but we really need to know that in order to be effective. And a couple of things that I want to give in terms of pause is that we never want to use the results of these assessments to say, oh, this is the kind of job someone should be in because they're wired for accuracy. Well, it does mean that they might have an easier time at their job, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll be good at it. So, important factor. We don't want to use this for hiring unless it's just simply to get to know them better. We never want to pigeonhole people. So again, you should be in accounting because you're accurate. And we don't want to have it be an excuse for poor performance. So if someone is super direct and just interrupts people and doesn't ask about, their concerns or anything like that, we don't want to say, oh, they have a dominant style. That's just the way they are. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's like, yeah, if you were in your own little bubble, we could act like that all the time. But because we're acting with other humans, we need to adapt our style to be effective in that way. So once you learn your own style, you want to learn your team member styles, and then you basically want to figure out, how far apart are we? Am I way up here and they're way down there? Well, the analogy I like to use is the further apart you are, the more intentional you have to be to meet in the middle. So imagine a rubber band that's got to go around both of you. If you're that far apart, it is stretching super hard. If you guys are close together, it's like, well, yeah, let's just step in here. We're fine. It doesn't take that much to be able to work with someone in that way. And I've had lots of colleagues over the years where it's like, oh, it's so easy to work with you. Looking back on it, it's like, well, yeah, we have the same style and preferences. So that's what makes it easy. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best solution. It might be the most harmonious. It might be the most intuitive. But it doesn't mean that we're bringing in the broadest perspectives in order to create the best possible solution. So careful on that. So if you find that your team is really struggling to communicate with each other, going through a personality assessment like the DISC can really be helpful because it provides a framework, it provides a map and what the values and priorities of each personality type are. And it allows you to have a shared vocabulary to talk about the gaps or ask for what you need. So, for example, if you're a peacemaker and you want everything to be harmonious and you want everyone to have a say and things like that, and you're working with someone who's just get it done, get it done, get it done, you may need to pause them, slow them down and say, I need this, and vice versa. The person who's working so quickly might just say, hey, get it together. We got to speed it up. We got a deadline. So it's important that we really come together knowing what those gaps are. So when I work with teams and we go through these workshops, it's like, oh, that's why you do that. God, that must drive you crazy when I do that. And it's true. It happens all the time. So it improves teamwork. It definitely improves communication and performance because then we're not doing this rework or, complaining or this passive aggressive behavior. It's like, hey, it's crystal clear here. This person needs this. This person needs this. So, let's work the middle. Let's try to give them what they both want. So it also places conflict management in the hands of the team members rather than the leader always having to mediate. If two team members are far apart and they're butting heads, it's pretty easy for them to do a comparison and say, oh, you need this, I need this, let's work together to get what we both need, rather than the leader always having to point that out. So if you're ready to improve your team dynamics, if you as a leader really want to improve your people reading skills and adapt your style to make every person on your team just the best that they can be, book a workshop. Workshops can be done in 2-hour increments. They can be 2 days. It really depends on the needs of your team and what you're trying to achieve, and really, the amount of conflict that's present in the team. Conflict management is one of those things that sometimes we have to iron out a few wrinkles, and help people move beyond that before they can hear what needs to be said for moving forward. So if you're in that position and you feel like you're mediating a ton, you want your team to be performing better, and you just want to understand yourself and others better, by all means, book a call. We are happy to help you out here. If you're listening to the podcast, know that we have this on YouTube, and so you can watch on YouTube. You can see my smiling face and just how non-judgmental I will be of you, your leadership style, and your team. We do want you to invite your friends. A rising tide lifts all boats, and it makes our lives richer. So this week I'm going to be speaking at the ICF Converge conference in Orlando. It will have passed by the time you hear this, but if you're a coach and you purchased, the what are they calling? The all access pass, you can listen to my talk, Let's Not Break Up, talking about overcoming polarization in the workplace. So by all means, just reach out. You can reach out to podcast@shaunacorden.com or just visit the site. So I hope to hear from you soon and make your life better. Take good care.